Good morning. This is Daily Hebrew Declarations with Daniel Jedediah Cook, and I'm reading the declaration for today, February the 18th, 2021. The three Hebrew letters we're honoring today are Nun, Zadi, and Shin. Along with those three living letters, we're also honoring the spirit of understanding, the spirit of counsel, and the spirit of might. The declaration today reads this: Faithful, righteous Son, the journey of the righteous and his staying on that path, flaming crowns of our identity in Yahweh. Now, one of the letters that we're honoring today is the living letter Zadi. And Zadi taught me quite some time ago to begin to look beyond that, as well as a couple of other letters that really speak even more than that. The Shin, especially, taught me to look beyond just what I see from the surface of something. And my today's declaration may rattle you a little bit because we've always heard this story in the perspective of Leviathan being an evil or a demon or that sort of thing. Can I challenge you today and ask you, let's look at this from a slightly different perspective? Let's look at this from, instead of being a demon or a devil, let's look at this instead from the place of being a righteous son, one who is a faithful righteous son, who has stayed on that path and has a flaming crown on their head that Yahweh has placed on their head. And listen carefully. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which you let down? In other words, can you grab a hold of him? Can you put a hook in his nose or bore a jaw through with a thorn? Will you make supplications with him or speak soft words to him? Not a son who knows who they are. Will he make a covenant with you, and will you take him for a servant forever? No, he doesn't serve anyone except the Father. Will you play with him as a bird, or will you bind him for your maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Shall you, in other words, will you tear him apart? Will you take his parts and put him and so that everybody else can have a part of that? Lay a hand on him? Remember the battle and do no more. 1,000 may fall at your right hand, 10,000 may fall at your left hand, but nothing shall come nigh unto you. Lay a hand on him, remember the battle, and do no more. A righteous son is been protected by Almighty Yahweh. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? A true righteous son standing in the fullness of the glory of Almighty Yahweh? None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? Now this is Yahweh speaking to Job. None is so fierce that dare stir up the righteous son. Who then is able to stand before me, says Almighty Yahweh. Who has prevented me that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not conceal his parts. I will not hide him, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment? Or who can come to him with his double bridle? In other words, who can come to him and still bind him up to try to make him do things that they're not supposed to? A righteous son who knows who they are, who has become one with the Father? His scales are his pride, shut up together so close as with the seal. In other words, his protected. His righteous family, those that are with him, are protected, and they are his majesty. You see, that word pride there means majesty. One is so near the other that not even air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together. They cannot be sundered. They can't be torn apart because they're the family of Almighty Yahweh. By his sneezings the light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils go smoke, and out of the seething pot or cauldron, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindles coals, and a flame goes out of his mouth. The flame of the word of Almighty Yahweh as we return his word back to him. In his neck remains strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. Because this righteous son knows who they are, and in the Father Sorrow is turned to joy in the place of the Father. You see, we're standing in Him. In this whole picture, we are standing in Him. The flakes of His flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone. Yes, as hard as a pith of the nether millstone. In other words, it's firm. It's solid. It's on the foundation. It's connected itself to the foundation. And it's a part of the foundation of Yahweh. When He raises Himself up, the mighty are afraid. By reasons of breaking, they purify Himself. Think about stories over and over and over again through Scripture where righteous sons have stood up and many have fled. I think of Gideon, who all they did was stand on a hillside and break potsherds. And the sound of the potsherds made the enemies flee. And then Gideon and his the group of his 300 men were able to walk into the camp and to plunder the camp. That's just one of many stories. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteems iron as a straw and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned into stubble with him. Things being thrown at him, they're irrelevant. They can't even make him run. Why? Because they have no effect, right? The scales, the majestic scales are there to protect, and he doesn't have to run at anything because he stands knowing who he is. Darts are counted as stubble, and he laughs at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreads sharp pointed things upon the mire. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot, and make the sea like a pot of ointment. He makes a path to shine after him. Remember, the steps of a righteous man are ordered of the Lord, and His word is a light unto our feet, and a lamp unto our feet, and a light unto our path. One would think that he be hoary. Upon the earth there is not like Him, who is made without fear. In Yahweh we have no fear. In Him we stand in the fullness of the fear of the Lord. That is the only fear that we have, and that is not the fear that's being spoken of here. We are ones that have been made without fear of those things that can come against us. Why? Because we stand in Him. Now remember, we're talking about Leviathan. I've got a secret at the end of this I want to tell you. He beholds all high things. He comes up here and He sees what's in the heavenly realms. He sees this place of what Yahweh has given to us. And then He begins to speak, and He becomes a vessel that Yahweh can place His kingdom here on the earth. He is king over all the children of pride. Now, I know many times that's where people say, now, that's exactly where it says that He's a demon. But wait a minute, we're looking at this from a Western mindset. We are looking at this from our definition of what we know is the word pride there. Because when I go back into the Hebrew, that word there is majesty. He is king over all of the majestic. Levi Tanin, Leviathan, he is one who is His king. We are kings and priests over all that Yahweh has given us. We are kings and priests. Now, we are submitted to the King of Kings, and we are nothing without Him. But yet in the same place, Yahweh Himself is the king over all of His majestic ones, His kings that He has placed here in the earth. You see, we and Yahweh coming together as one in this place of standing in the fullness of who we are in Him, we are, if you will, a Leviathan. Now, it's funny because Moshe was actually known as Levi Tanin. One of the modifications of Leviathan or Leviathan is Levi Tanin. Tanin is a very, very special word in Hebrew because it begins to talk about a place of a righteous son, one who stands in the fullness. We've got the tav, the finishing, the completion, one standing as being marked by Yahweh, a nun. And I'm not using all the letters in this particular word, but the ones that are speaking right now, the Nun, which says that we are a son, the king and Aaron a priest, standing in the fullness of the measure of the stature of Christ, the Nun final, or the Nun Sophit. You see, that's who we are. This is who we are, faithful, righteous sons. Zadi, let's stand up. Zadik, we are the Sadiq. Let us stand up and be the righteous sons that Yahweh has called us to be.